But yeah, so but back to that woman. The woman said, black women die every 6 hours. I looked at that study afterwards. I wish I see. I knew I should have my computer out when everybody was saying all this stuff on there. She said black women die every 6 hours. See, this is a part of delusion. This is why I say I'm about orange pill, and orange pill for me is getting with black women out of this delusion of just a lot of stuff. When you sit there and you can say that black women die every 6 hours by their domestic partner, which is probably a black man, where did you get that from? So I looked it up. Turns out, men, first of all, there's a couple things that are very wrong about this one. So, and this is also, like I said, I'm trying to break y'all out of this delusion. Um, that article said women in general die every 6 hours from domestic violence, and it was in 1999, and it was a study out of South Africa. Now, if I tried to explain these facts to a black woman, the black woman there, would she go? Would you think she go? Oh, damn! I guess that had nothing to do with us. An article from over 20 years ago in a whole other country.
No. All right. So let's give him the work that he's asking for now. Hey guys, welcome back to Themis and Thought. Grab your coffee, water, tea, whatever you're drinking, go and get that. Today we have a lot to discuss concerning the biggest enemy to black women, and this was definitely not the video I intended to make. But I had to. I had to do it for a lot of reasons. But before we even get to the video that I'm quote unquote responding to, if you guys remember a while ago, there was a debate on my channel between the pink pill and someone named the orange pill. They were debating, and at the end of the debate, the orange pill said he understood and he lost the debate and he gets it. And me, in my naivety, decided that, oh, maybe this is working and people are actually learning. But no, he went on to do a video talking about how he was mistreated, ganged up on, and that people were making claims that weren't legitimate. This is not a response to that video. Let's be clear. He can do whatever, say whatever he wants. This is a response to a narrative put forward not just by him, but the entire manosphere who have somehow taken the black woman being killed every 6 hours and make that into some kind of a lie, right? Or an over exaggeration. So we're going to break that down in a minute, and I need to do that for a sort of response. But this is what he said, and I want you to hold that thought for a moment before we get back to him. But here's what he had to say.
There was also another point where I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have went down this road, where I was talking about how I feel like black men are more respectful, and it's really hard to really prove, which he basically elaborated on, and I really kind of couldn't explain it. It's kind of one of the things. But I said in general conversation. Now she challenged this, but it's really no way to prove it, so there's not really an answer. Um, but there's also a lot of things that they said that they can't really prove. So my thing is that when they speak in general, when black women who have issues with black men, they speak in general. They don't give specifics, but you need to provide specifics on what you're trying to prove. One woman was like, "Black women are living their best life. Y'all are mad about it." Okay, first of all, what is living your best life? You know what that means? No, I don't. I don't know what that means. You guys gotta be, but we gotta be specific. Y'all can speak in general, and we gotta know what it means. All this stuff. But it's what else we got? But yeah, so but back to that woman. The woman said, black women die every 6 hours. I looked at that study afterwards. I wish see. I knew I should have my computer out when everybody was saying all this stuff on there. She said black women die every 6 hours. See, this is a part of delusion. This is why I say I'm about orange pill, and orange pill for me is getting with black women out of this delusion of just a lot of stuff. When you sit there and you can say that black women die every 6 hours by their domestic partner, which is probably a black man, where did you get that from? So I looked it up. Turns out, men, first of all, there's a couple things that are very wrong about this one. And this is also, like I said, trying to break down this delusion. Um, that article said women in general die every 6 hours from domestic violence, and it was in 1999, and it was a study out of South Africa. Now, if I tried to explain these facts to a black woman there, would she go? Would you think she go? Oh, damn! I guess that had nothing to do with us. An article from over 20 years ago in a whole other country. That's not as civilized as we are. Oops. No, she would still be trying to like. See, this is the thing when you just debunk stuff. I guarantee if I said that back then, she still would just be very disagreeable. Well, it's probably not too far along for what happens over here. You know, it's one of them things. So
All right. Please hold that note because we are going to go through some research, actual research, and I'll show it on the screen. Um, Even though I said I would not be doing that going forward a lot, I when people talk about delusion, I think they're just projecting their own understanding of themselves because this is highly delusional. Like, this is extremely delusional. So let's go back to the video that I want to react to. By the way, I'm going to answer his requests for the research, which he somehow just completely missed, right? Like, he claims that the only research he could find with black women being killed every 6 hours was in the 90s from South Africa. Let's ignore him talking about developed versus not developed and civilized. Let's ignore all of that for a moment and then get back to it, right? So this man is doing a podcast. We don't need to get into it. We just need to get to what he believes the biggest problem in the black community is and the quote unquote biggest enemy to the black woman. So let's have him say it because I'll let them talk uninterrupted and then I'll get back to what I need to say. So here's what he had to say.
I want to go a little deeper and we're going to talk about sex in a minute because you made a comment about great sex. So I want to go there. But one of the biggest issues in my opinion is this. In a black community, black women pander to other black women. Have you seen that?
Is pandering like, see, I get confused with pandering. Like, so is pandering like kissing people's ass? Like, is that like, I don't, like, is pandering like, you know, giving people bad advice? Like,
okay, pandering is this. Say you got 3 baby daddies, right? Because it started young, right? So say you're 19 and you got 3 baby daddies, right?
Jesus.
The majority of the women in your family, because your family is full of women, in the black community is always nothing but women, no men, right? Because ain't nobody got no man, and everybody's man left them or whatever, right? The next thing you know, they're gonna say, oh my God, we gotta have a baby shower. I'm so happy for you, right? And then behind the girl's back, the little 19-year-old girl's back, what are the black women gonna say?
She's stupid?
Girl, she don't have another baby. What is wrong with her? What in the world?
Right.
Girl. But they ain't never gonna tell her, like, yo,
Give her advice.
let me give you some advice. Let me help you. They're not gonna do that. They're just gonna talk behind a young girl's back. And this is auntie, cousin, even your own mama.
Moms, yes.
They're not even gonna, you know what I'm saying? So what? So that it starts there, talking behind each other's backs in the black family. So that's one. There's no unity in the black family among women, right? Then she grows up, right? And she has friends, right? And I said this earlier. The typical woman may not realize, but her best friend has another friend that she talks about you with. So when you out here doing this, when you doing that, all these stupid things that you were doing or are doing, instead of your homegirl being like, yo, what is you doing?
What are you doing? Like, you need to start reevaluating things.
Yeah, you tripping.
Yeah.
She is just gonna be like, oh, okay, well, shoot, do your thing, girl. Do you.
Right.
And then she's gonna tell her other friend, like, yo, I don't know what's going on.
That's
with her.
so crazy too, because what does that even come from? Like, but these are the people that you care about, because I don't have those type of friend dynamic.
I understand, but a lot of women, they don't. That's what I'm saying. There's a propensity or a habit of simply pandering and just comforting the woman and empathizing with the woman instead
Like, she
of
can never
telling
do
her
wrong.
that you can never do wrong, right? And it's just like y'all perpetuate this mess to each other on a normal basis, and it's really sad.
It's sad because even if you do, this is my whole thing with women. Like, they attach themselves to their mistakes, and instead of saying, you know, I need to do better, they kind of brush it off like, oh well, you know,
worth this. I'm not good enough.
And they just continue the same cycle of those decisions. But well, I already did it, so, you know, because they feel like, oh, there's no coming back from it now, I'm just gonna keep doing it. That's where a lot of women mess up. Like, and that's where I think that, you know, they, instead of like telling the friend, like, yeah, I may have messed up, but, you know, I can do better, and I want you to do better than me. Learn from my mistakes.
Right.
That's what you should be telling your friends. Like, I really don't understand why you would kind of want to have a friend group that is like low quality.
And then at the same time, like, we can go even deeper because we're talking about family members, talking behind your back. and then your best friend is talking behind your back. Now think about yourself as a woman. Your homegirl, your best friend that you had since 9th grade, she's calling you, he did this to me, he did that to me, and you're like, well, you gonna leave? Okay. And you're like, all right, whatever, I'm supporting you whether you stay or whether you go, right? You talking about her to your boyfriend. All of us have heard about your best friend when you pillow talk with us. My best friend, she's so stupid, she won't do this, she won't do this, she won't leave him. Okay, why is she still your best friend? You've had the same, a lot of you ladies, almost all of you, have had the same dumb best friend since the 9th grade. And she's still your best friend to this day. And one of the reasons why you are okay with having this dumb best friend who keeps doing stupid stuff and can't get out of her own way is because you need her in order to fulfill the little issues that you have, or the big issues that you have in your own life. See, you standing next to an idiot makes you look like a genius. Right? So you keep your stupid best friend stupid so you can always look better and smarter than her.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay,
so you are doing the same thing that other women are doing to your best friend. You ain't helping your best friend, because the easiest way to help anybody is by leaving their asses and let them know, like, yo, when you get your stuff together, I'll come back around you.
Right.
But the longer you put up with her doing stupid stuff and you stay around her, that means to a certain degree, you're okay with her mistakes. And that is the biggest reason why black women are black women's biggest enemy, because none of y'all really help each other grow. Y'all are either competing with each other or keeping each other down so you can feel better about yourself in comparison to her. What do you think about it?
I don't care what she think about that. Absolutely do not care what she think about that. So black women, and this is, by the way, the title of what he was doing, that black women are the biggest enemy to black women. And for me, right, no shade, but that was kind of trigger. Enemy is defined as one that is antagonistic to another. It is also defined as something harmful or deadly. So when you say black women are the biggest enemy to black women, yeah, you're gonna have to provide more than the fact that they talk behind each other's backs.
And that is the biggest reason why black women are black women's biggest enemy, because none of y'all really help each other grow. Y'all are either competing with each other or keeping each other down so you can feel better about yourself in comparison to her.
And or they allow each other to make dumb mistakes when it comes to partnerships, right? Before I even get to the fact that every 6 hours a black woman was killed in 2020, not 1990, let's hear again what the orange pill had to say. And I'm playing this person not because I want to beat up on him, but in his video, he called black women delusional, and that he's trying to break them out of the delusion, and there's no research that would indicate what black women were saying on the live stream about black women being killed. And black femicide, right? And so I want you, I played it before, but I'm going to play it again. And I want you to listen to it, and then we're going to talk. She
said black women die every 6 hours. See, this is a part of delusion. This is why I say I'm about orange pill, and orange pill for me is getting with black women out of this delusion of just a lot of stuff. You know, when you sit there and you can say that black women die every 6 hours by their domestic partner, which is probably a black man, where did you get that from? So I looked it up. Turns out, it meant, first of all, there's a couple things that are very wrong about what this woman said. And this is also, like I said, I'm trying to break y'all out of this delusion. That article said women in general die every 6 hours from domestic violence, and it was in 1999, and it was a study out of South Africa. Now, if I tried to explain these facts to the black woman there, would you think we should go, oh damn, I guess that has nothing to do with us? An article from over 20 years ago with a whole other country that is not as civilized as we are. Oops. No, she would still be trying to, like, see, this is the thing when you just debunk stuff. I guarantee if I said that back then, she still would just be very disagreeable.
First of all, sir, you didn't look it up. You did not look it up, because if you look it up, you would not be saying that. I don't know why the light is so weird in here, but it doesn't matter. This video is not about me, so it's fine. Not only, because I think we kind of get confused when gender comes into play and everyone gets up in arm, but black women are disproportionately being killed by their intimate partners. That is a fact. I will pull up the Guardian article now that he apparently read but didn't actually read because he couldn't find it, and he kept talking about South Africa in the 1990s. Like, how are you talking about this, sir? So you didn't do any work there, and I'll bring it up. And they reference the FBI study that was released in 2020. So I don't know what work you did, but even beyond that, right? Let's move from that. Because you could have gone to the primary source, the FBI study, but you didn't. But it's not just gender. The leading cause of death for black men and boys ages 1 to 44 is what? Guess what? Homicide. Actually, let's bring it up. I've done this already, right? Like, we've seen this graph before, this chart rather, before. As I was reading this, though, it reminded me of something. And you know how he's calling women delusional for talking about the black femicide as we now understand it. Before I get into the stats and the article, which I do have, well, when we get to the article, I'll talk about it. But it reminded me of something, and as you can see it on the screen, that Kevin Samuels said. And instead of just kind of summarizing it, let's just play it, because since we are all talking about these men who refuse to acknowledge how they have created a hell for black women and black boys and young men, right? Like, everyone is dying at their hands. We'll get to whose hands they're dying at, because we already know, but these journalists do not want to actually articulate. So we'll talk about it in a moment. But let's go to Kevin Samuels to repeat what the Orange Pill just said about black women's delusion regarding how often they're being murdered, right? And DV generally. I mean, domestic violence. I don't know why I don't know why I'm trying to pretend like I'm not going to just say the words. I'm not very good at code words.
I call it the color purpling of the black community. How many times do we hear that women out here dealing with all this abuse? I'm going to do the show on abuse next week because I'm tired of hearing this bullcrap. I do not see women being abused. I don't see women. I don't see black women being physically abused. Never really have. I'm gonna just say it. I never really have seen black women being abused. In my entire life, I have known of one woman, and that was one of my mother's friends back in the 70s. One. And she and her husband, or she and her man, they would fight each other. One.
So now we have to talk, because everyone keeps saying it is somehow a delusion when black women talk about domestic violence and literally murder of black women, right? So it's unfortunate because people are saying this with so much sincerity in their voice, and I'm not sure how you garner that much sincerity about something that you're completely and utterly wrong about. So let's go to the article that this man was supposed to read from The Guardian that he did not read, right? Like, he definitely did not read this article, right? So it says, at least 4 black women and girls were murdered per day in the United States in 2020. Let that sink in for a moment. At least 4 black women and girls were murdered per day in the United States in 2020. So when we had the first gentleman talking about how the biggest enemy to a black woman is another black woman because they talk poorly behind them. No, when we talk about enemy, we're talking about people who do other people harm. And that's not other black women statistically. So no, and you will say, oh, well, it might have been clickbait. He just wanted, no. Don't clickbait with that. you need to know that as a black man, you don't get to sit on anyone's camera. You do not get to speak about who is more dangerous to a black woman if you're not going to point out statistically it is a black man. You don't. According to the stats released by the FBI last week, a sharp increase compared with the year before. So and it does say black women, right, and girls were murdered per day. Now, if you can't do math, right, I'm not a math person, you would take 24 hours in a day, divide 24 hours by how many black girls were killed, which is 4 per day, and you should get 6. That number 6 is the hour. It is a black girl or woman is killed every 6 hours. That's how that was translated. Again, what work did you do, sir? Right? Now let's continue down the article because I do have some issues with this article. The rising murder rate has affected black women across the country. Baltimore, Maryland recorded the highest ever number of women killed in 2020, with at least 48 women murdered throughout the year, many of them black. All right. Let's continue. I'm going to point out an issue that I have with this article. And it's going to come back to privilege and who has it. But advocates and experts said the stock rise makes it clear it's time to address the factor that have long made black women face a 3 times higher homicide rate than white women, as well as why their risk of being murdered increased sharply last year. All right. So hopefully we're still reading, right? And we're still going through because it's, again, super frustrating when I hear men come on and say, oh, women are delusional, talking about black femicide and all this stuff, and it's not real. It is real. You might not want to admit that it's real, but it is definitely real. Statistically, it is real. So it does bother me, and it's very triggering to hear someone say, a black man particularly, say that the biggest problem, the biggest enemy to a black woman is another black woman. Like, what? Where did you get that? Let's get to the problem with this review. And even when we're reporting on something this significant, right, there always is a bias in the writing, right? So they said there are many factors that make black women more vulnerable to violence, right? Including widespread access to firearm and barriers to access of preventative services and mental health care. Factors that probably worsened during the pandemic, Crenshaw said, and the intensely unequal way that the pandemic affected Americans of color almost certainly played a role in worsening violence against women, she added. Many black women were essential workers who had to continue working outside their homes during the pandemic. Now, obviously, with the pandemic, everything increased. You want to know what was not brought up at all? Who was doing the killings? That part just, we don't know. Black women are just being, like, these people are like part of the reason why, right? The last blurb we saw was that black women were essential workers. Okay, sure, cool, yeah, that's great. How does that lead to them being murdered, right? By intimate partners. Like, it's frustrating because the article went out of its way to not name the group that are attacking black women. It did. The article brings up black men, by the way. It does bring up black men. And I actually, let's do it. Let's read what it said about black men, because it does bring it up, and I think it's important. The increase in murders of black women comes on the overall as the overall US murder rate rose nearly 30% during the pandemic, the biggest jump in 6 decades. The number of people murdered increased sharply across racial groups and in cities big and small. Most of America's homicide victims, right? Most homicide victims remain men, and Black men and boys continue to face the highest overall risk of homicide, with at least 2,400 additional Black men and boys killed in 2020 compared to 2019, according to the homicide data reported to the FBI. All right. No mention of who is doing the killings, right? No, like the pandemic came and people just started killing people. There's no mention of who. And it's not that I want it to be overt who is doing the killing, but it's important if we're going to have the conversation openly about Black women being killed, that we also take into account who is and has been doing the killing. And it's interesting because the people who are a part of the group, myself included, of Black men, they are also the ones online, myself not included in this group, talking about domestic violence and that black femicide is not real. And that the biggest enemy to a Black woman is another Black woman. Like, how arrogant must you be to be affiliated by birth, right? Gender, sex, whatever you want to call it, to be affiliated and a part of a group that has perpetuated tremendous harm against another group, and that even if you are not on an individual level, the person who is committing this kind of violent act against someone, you don't have the right to deny that experience against all this data. You don't. You don't come here and say people are delusional because you lost a debate and it was brought up. You don't get to say Black women need to be trained by you to be better, which is what the gentleman said when he was talking about Black women being the biggest enemy for another Black woman. You don't get to do that. You don't foster an environment, Kevin Samuels, now, where Black men feel it is okay to mistreat Black women and then talk about the color purpling of the Black community because you refuse to accept that Black women have been living in a hell that people who look like you created. Now, that last bit, created, people might have issues with. And this is what I say to you if you have issues with. Yes, there are systemic issues. Yes, when we have poverty, we have crime. But we will not use that to take away personal responsibility from the person who is engaging in the behavior. And that is what we see online all the time. The fact that people are so comfortable sitting on screen saying that Black women are the biggest enemies to Black women legit makes no sense when Black men are the ones killing Black women. That makes no sense. Additionally, you do not get to sit here, Kevin Samuels, and talk about the color purpling of the Black community when you refuse to acknowledge that domestic violence is occurring. Like, you don't get to do that. And Orange Pill, it is really frustrating that you did come on this channel. We spoke to you. You acknowledged that you lost the debate. Then you went back, created a video talking about how you lost the debate because you were being ganged up on and you did the research and there is no such thing as Black femicide. You didn't say no such thing as Black femicide, but essentially what you said was that. Now, specifically what you said is that someone said that a Black woman died every 6 hours, and if you told them they were wrong, they would be delusional because you knew it happened in the 1990s in South Africa, and then you claim South Africa is not civilized. Yeah, we heard. I'm just leaving that alone. The ethnocentric ideas, I'm going to put that to the side because we're not talking about your inability to articulate yourself without... Let's stop. You were wrong. I hope that you watch this and you recognize that you were wrong. I hope that it is not wrong in a way that you don't know how to debate, which you do not, but wrong in the way that your facts were inaccurate, and you need to adjust the way that you're thinking. A lot of us need to stop denying the experiences of the people, the women in our life that we know. It might not have been at our hands, but they have experienced a lot of trauma. Even if that individual woman hasn't, Black women generally have been facing a ton of trauma. You don't get to push that aside and say that they are delusional and that's why you're doing what you're doing to teach women. Stop teach. I am over, by the way, this is the end. I am over all these men talking about they're going to teach women something. We don't have anything to teach women. We really don't. When we have so much that we need to fix ourselves. How do we tell people how to operate in an environment when we did not create the environment for them to operate in? And the level of arrogance for you to think that you can tell a woman as a man how to be a woman is beyond me. It is absolutely beyond me. I cannot wait for this live on Friday, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to want to debate, and I look forward to it. Anyway, have a great day. Bye.